My brother's new wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not family anymore. You're watching stories her heart holds, where real hearts speak their truth." Tell me in the comments, has someone ever made you feel like an outsider in your own family? I never thought my brother Daniel would be the kind of man to choose someone over his own blood. We've been through everything together. Our parents passed when I was just 21 and he was 18. I practically raised him, paid for his college, helped him get his first apartment, even covered his wedding expenses for his first marriage. So when he remarried a year after his divorce, I was the one smiling the widest, holding the bouquet at his small backyard ceremony. I wanted to believe this time he'd found peace, but I was wrong. Her name was Vanessa. Pretty, polished, sharp-tongued, the kind of woman who could make anyone feel small with just a look. From the beginning, she made it clear I didn't fit her picture of Daniel's new life. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself she was just nervous or adjusting. But soon, her words started cutting deeper. It began with little things. One afternoon, I stopped by their house with a basket of muffins I'd baked. It was something Mom used to do, drop by with warm food just to check in. Vanessa opened the door, smiled politely, and said, "Oh, you shouldn't have." But the way she said it sounded like, "Don't do it again." When I asked if Daniel was home, she said, "He's resting. He's had a long day." I could see his car in the driveway. That night, Daniel called and said, "Hey, maybe text before dropping by next time, okay?" Vanessa likes to keep things organized. I told him, "Since when do families need appointments to see each other?" He laughed it off, but something in his tone had changed. A few months passed. Birthdays, family dinners. She skipped most of them. When she did show up, she acted like she was doing everyone a favor. The real tension started when I mentioned our parents' house. You see, when Mom and Dad passed, they left the house to both of us, me and Daniel. We agreed I'd keep living there because it held memories, and I was taking care of the place. The will stated clearly that it belonged to both of us. Daniel never argued about it. Not once. Until Vanessa came along. One evening, I got a call from him. His voice was careful, too careful. "Hey, sis," he said. "Vanessa and I were talking. Maybe it's time to sell Mom and Dad's house." I went silent. I could feel my stomach tighten. "Why?" I asked. He said, "It's just sitting there. You could use the money." We both could. "I live here, Daniel," I reminded him. "This isn't just a house." He sighed. "Vanessa thinks," I cut him off. "Vanessa thinks what?" "That you should move on. It's been years." That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, staring at the old oak tree our dad planted the year Daniel was born. The air felt heavy, like something was shifting in the universe, and not in my favor. Weeks later, I found out they'd met with a real estate agent. Behind my back, when I confronted him, Daniel said, "It's just to get an estimate. Nothing's final." But the look on Vanessa's face said otherwise. She smiled, that polite, fake smile, and said, "We just want what's fair." Fair. As if the nights I worked double shifts to pay off the mortgage after Dad died didn't count. As if the years I spent keeping that house alive didn't matter. Then came the moment I'll never forget. It was at our family's small Thanksgiving dinner, the first one without any extended relatives. Just the three of us and Daniel's 2 kids from his first marriage. I had cooked all day. Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, and the works. Vanessa showed up late, wearing designer heels and carrying a store-bought pie. Halfway through dinner, she started talking about fresh starts and new chapters. I tried to keep things light, asked her about her new job, her hobbies, but she steered the conversation back to the house. "Don't you think it's time to let go of the past, Ellen?" she said, smiling sweetly. I looked at her. "Some things aren't meant to be let go," she shrugged. "Well, Daniel and I think otherwise. We'll be talking to a lawyer next week." The room went silent. Even Daniel looked uncomfortable. I stood up, my hands trembling, and said, "Excuse me." As I was walking to the kitchen, she called out, "Don't take it personally. Ellen, you're not really family anymore. Not in the same way." Her words hit me harder than I expected. "You're not family anymore." They echoed in my head for days. I didn't eat much that week. Didn't sleep either. I kept hearing my mother's voice. "Take care of your brother. Ellen, he'll need you someday." Funny how life twists those promises, but I wasn't going to let her erase me. One Sunday afternoon, I went up to the attic and opened the old cedar chest my parents left behind. Inside were albums, letters, and documents, including the will. The original copy, yellowed with time, but still perfectly legible. I read every word, twice. "The house at 1421 Maple Lane shall remain the shared property of Ellen and Daniel, with equal rights and access. No conditions. No time limit. No clauses about selling." That night, I made a copy and placed it in a folder labeled, "In case they push too far." And sure enough, they did. A week later, a letter arrived from a law firm. Notice of intent to sell shared property. Signed by Daniel and Vanessa. I laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. The next morning, I called the lawyer listed on the letter. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding," I said calmly. He hesitated. "Mrs. Lewis, your brother's wife assured us this sale was mutually agreed upon." "She assured you wrong," I said, my voice steady. "And I have the will to prove it." "Then I see. In that case, we'll need to verify documentation." "Oh, you'll get it," I replied. "I'll bring it myself." That night, I drove to Daniel's house. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt strangely calm. When he opened the door, Vanessa was right behind him, arms crossed. "Ellen," he said, "now's not a good time." "Oh, it's the perfect time," I said, stepping inside. Vanessa started to speak, but I raised a hand. "No, you've said enough." I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. "You told me I wasn't family anymore, Vanessa. But maybe you should read this before you try to erase me." I opened the folder and laid the will on their kitchen counter. Her expression shifted, from smug to startled. Daniel leaned over to read it. His face turned pale. "It says we both own the house," I said quietly, "which means you can't sell it without my consent." Vanessa stammered. "That can't be right." Maybe it's outdated." "It's not," I interrupted. "It was updated 2 years before Dad passed. Filed legally. Witnessed and notarized." She looked at Daniel, expecting him to back her up. But he didn't say a word. I turned to him. "You let her treat me like a stranger. You let her twist everything Mom and Dad built for us." His eyes filled with guilt. "Ellen, No," I said firmly. "You made your choice. And now I'm making mine." I gathered the papers, turned around, and walked to the door. Before I stepped out, I looked back at her. "You said I wasn't family anymore. But the will disagrees." Then I left. That night, I sat on my porch again. Same spot, same oak tree. But something felt different. The house didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like a victory. I had spent years holding this family together, even when they didn't deserve it. But now, I was holding myself together, and that was enough. She looks down at the photo in her hands, her parents, smiling. A small tear rolls down her cheek, but she smiles too. "Mom, Dad," she whispers, "I did what you taught me. I stood up for what's right." You know that feeling after a storm? When the world's still and quiet, but you can tell it's not over yet? That was me the morning after I showed Vanessa the will. I'd finally stood up for myself. For Mom and Dad. For every year I spent holding this family together. But the truth? I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Daniel hadn't called. Not a word, not a text. Part of me hoped he'd show up and say, "I'm sorry, sis. You were right." But deep down, I knew Vanessa wouldn't let that happen. The next few days were oddly peaceful. I worked in the garden, read on the porch, and avoided checking my phone. The silence was almost soothing, until it wasn't. On Friday, my neighbor, Mrs. Green, stopped by. She's the kind of woman who knows everything that happens on our street before anyone else does. She leaned over my fence and said, "Honey, I saw your brother's wife talking to someone outside the house yesterday. Fancy suit. Looked like a lawyer, I froze. A lawyer? Mm-hmm. She handed him a folder. They were out there for a good 20 minutes. I thanked her, but inside I was boiling. If Vanessa thought she could outsmart me, she had another thing coming. That evening, I went to Daniel's office. He works at a small auto parts company downtown. Nothing fancy, but it's been his pride for years. When I walked in, the receptionist smiled politely. "Hi, can I help you?" "Yes," I said. "I'm here to see Daniel Lewis, his sister." She frowned slightly. "He just left for the day, but his wife came by earlier to pick up some documents." I felt my jaw tighten. "Did she say what for?" She shook her head. "Sorry, ma'am." But she mentioned something about property papers. Property papers. So this wasn't over. That night, I pulled out my parents' file again. Every document, every note, every letter. I wanted to make sure there wasn't some hidden clause I'd missed, and that's when I found it. At the bottom of the box, tucked inside an envelope I hadn't opened in years, was a handwritten letter from Dad. The envelope was yellowed, the ink fading, but his handwriting was unmistakable. I opened it carefully. To my children, Ellen and Daniel. He'd written it just months before his death. In the letter, he talked about the house, how much it meant to him, how he wanted it to remain a safe place for both of you, no matter what life brings. But at the bottom, there was something I'd never noticed before. If either of you ever tries to sell this home for personal gain, the ownership will transfer to the other in full. My heart skipped a beat. I read it again. And again. It wasn't in the official will. It was a personal addendum. But it was signed, dated, and witnessed by his lawyer, which meant it was legally valid. I sat there for a long time, staring at that piece of paper. My hands were trembling, but this time not from fear. From power. Dad had seen this coming. Somehow, he knew there might be a day when greed would come between us. And now, I had proof. The next morning, I made an appointment with the family lawyer, Mr. Raymond. He'd been with us since I was a teenager. A kind man with white hair and the patience of a saint. When I handed him the letter, his eyes widened. "Ellen," he said slowly. "This changes everything." I nodded. "So it's valid?" He smiled faintly. "Very much so. If your brother attempts to sell the house, ownership passes to you automatically." I sat back, exhaling for what felt like the first time in days. "Can we make that official?" I asked. "I'll file it first thing Monday morning," he said. "You'll want to be prepared, though. Once they realize there might be pushback." I smiled. "Let them push." Over the weekend, I tried to keep busy. I went for long walks, cleaned out the attic, and cooked myself real meals again. It felt good to breathe, to remember who I was before all this. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. We hadn't always been this way. I remembered when he was a scrawny teenager who used to sneak into my room after nightmares. I'd tell him stories until he fell asleep. We promised each other, always family, no matter what. But love changes when people let others whisper into their ear. Monday morning came. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone buzzed. Daniel. For a moment, I hesitated to answer. Then I took a breath and picked up. "Hey," he said quietly. "We need to talk." I kept my tone calm. "About what?" "I think you know." "I do," I said. "And you should know something too." Silence. "Then, we'll come over in an hour." When they arrived, Vanessa was dressed like she was going to court. Crisp blazer, heels clicking on my hardwood floor. Daniel looked tired, like he hadn't slept much. She didn't waste time. "Ellen, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but Daniel and I have every right to sell this house." I didn't move. "You think you do?" She frowned. "We already spoke to our lawyer." "Good," I said. "Because mine will be in touch soon." Daniel sighed. "Ellen, can we please not turn this into a legal battle?" I looked straight at him. "You made it one when you went behind my back." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous. It's just a house." I walked to the desk, opened the folder, and handed her Dad's letter. "This," I said, "isn't just a house. It's our parents' legacy. And according to Dad, if either of us tries to sell it for personal gain, the other inherits it entirely. Her face went pale. Daniel read it silently, his lips moving with each word. When he finished, he sank into the nearest chair. "Oh my God," he whispered. Vanessa snapped, "This can't be real. You probably forged it." Before I could reply, Daniel cut her off. "Vanessa, stop." She turned to him, stunned. "Excuse me?" He looked up at me, guilt written all over his face. "That's Dad's handwriting." "I remember it." Vanessa tried to argue, but Daniel stood. "Enough, we're done here." She gaped at him. "You're just going to let her—" He didn't answer, just grabbed his coat and walked out. For once, she had nothing left to say. That night, I got a message from Daniel. It was short. "I'm sorry, Ellen. I forgot what family meant. I'll fix this." I didn't reply. Not yet. Some apologies need time to sink in before they mean anything. Over the next few weeks, things quieted down. Vanessa stopped showing up at family gatherings. Word got around that they were taking space. I didn't ask questions. I was busy rediscovering my peace. I started volunteering at the local shelter, spent time with old friends, and even joined a weekend book club. For the first time in years, my life wasn't revolving around someone else's drama, and just when I thought it was over, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, I came home to find a letter taped to my front door. My heart skipped. For a second, I thought it might be Vanessa stirring up trouble again, but it wasn't. It was from Daniel. Inside was a single page. His handwriting, I'll be shaky but familiar. "Ellen, you were right. Vanessa only wanted what she could get from me. I caught her meeting someone from the realtor's office behind my back. She filed for divorce last week. You don't have to forgive me, but I want you to know, I never stopped seeing you as my sister. I just forgot how much that meant." I sat there, tears running down my cheeks. Not sad tears. Not angry ones, just release. Later that night, I walked outside and looked at the old oak tree again. The sky was clear, full of stars. "Mom, Dad," I whispered, "I think you'd be proud." She smiled softly, touching the bark of the tree. I didn't just win. I healed. For the first time in months, my mornings felt calm, real calm. No whispers, no tension, no feeling like I was tiptoeing around someone else's drama. I had spent the last few weeks rediscovering myself. Volunteering at the local shelter, joining a weekend book club, even taking long walks in the neighborhood. It was strange, this new life. I could hear my own thoughts for the first time in years, and it felt good. Solid. Then, one rainy Thursday afternoon, the mailbox rattled. I pulled out a thin envelope, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, from 10 years ago, taken at my parents' anniversary party. I was smiling at Daniel, holding the cake, nothing else. I frowned. My gut twisted. This wasn't just coincidence. Over the next few days, more letters appeared. Handwritten notes slipped under my door. Each one contained fragments of old photographs, little jabs in writing. You thought you could have it all, didn't you? Not everything is as it seems. I didn't need to guess who was behind it. Vanessa. I didn't panic. Not yet. I had dealt with her before, and I knew I had proof on my side. But there was something unsettling in the way these letters were carefully crafted. It wasn't random. It was personal. I called Daniel that evening. "Hey," he said cautiously. "What's going on?" "I think Vanessa isn't done," I said. "I've been getting letters, photographs, threats, almost." He was silent for a long moment. "Then I'll handle it," he said. "I'll talk to the lawyer. She can't do anything without proof," I sighed. "Daniel, you still think she'll play fair?" I want to believe she'll let it go," he admitted. I could hear the hesitation in his voice. That hesitation was dangerous. People like Vanessa preyed on it. That weekend, I decided to confront it differently. I went through my parents' old albums and letters, trying to piece together any history that Vanessa might dig into. That's when I stumbled upon something I hadn't seen before. a stack of letters from my mother to a lawyer in the 1990s. They were about a trust fund, one my parents had set up for Daniel and me. I remembered the account vaguely. It was supposed to cover emergencies, schooling, and life's unexpected turns. But my mother had also included a note that it must never be accessed without both siblings' consent. I held the letters in my hands, heart racing. If Vanessa got wind of this, if she tried to manipulate Daniel, she could try to take it, and she would. That night, I called Mr. Raymond, our family lawyer. "Ellen," he said, "I was expecting your call. Vanessa's been asking questions about the house, the will, and—" "I know," I interrupted. "She's scheming. And I think she might try to get the trust, too." He sighed. "If that happens, you need to be prepared. Legally, you're covered. Emotionally, well, that's harder. I'm ready," I said firmly. But even as I said it, a little part of me shivered. Because revenge, especially the clever kind, doesn't show itself until it's already done. The following week, Daniel came over in person. He looked exhausted, carrying an envelope that had clearly been hand-delivered. "It's from Vanessa," he said, placing it on my counter. She wants to meet, alone, says she has something important to tell me." I felt a surge of anger. "She wants you alone? Don't do it, Daniel. She's dangerous. I can handle her," he said. I need to know what she's planning." I shook my head. "Daniel, don't underestimate her. This isn't about information. It's about control. She'll use anything she can to get what she wants." He looked down, guilt written all over his face. "I let her get to me before." "You won't this time," I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room, scanning the letters and photos she had sent. My mind replayed our confrontation over the will. She had been clever, yes, but ultimately predictable. And I had learned her patterns. I made a list of every move she might try. Lawsuits, manipulating Daniel, rumors, emotional attacks, anything to isolate me. And for every step, I made a counter. By the time dawn broke, I had a plan. The next morning, I received a call from Daniel. His voice was tight. "She's coming over," he said. I braced myself. Vanessa arrived in her usual sharp attire, but this time there was a cold glint in her eyes. She walked straight past Daniel and looked at me. "Ellen," she said, voice smooth, "I just want to clear the air. There's no reason for all this tension." I kept my tone even. "Oh? Because sending letters and photographs makes perfect sense as a way to clear the air?" Her smile faltered. "Those were reminders, just reminders of the past. Nothing else? Reminders?" I asked, voice low. "Like trying to manipulate us?" She opened her mouth, but Daniel stepped in. "Enough, Vanessa. Sit down, please." She scowled but obeyed. We sat in the living room, tension thick. I felt the weight of all the months of stress. Her insults, the threats, the letters, pressing down on me. But I stayed calm. I had Dad's letter, the will, and now I had time and clarity on my side. "You've underestimated me for months," I said. "And you still are. I know what you want. I know your patterns, and I know I will not let you hurt my family again." Her eyes narrowed. "You're not Daniel. You don't understand him the way I do." I smiled. Not cruelly, but firmly. "Maybe. But I know enough to stop you." Daniel looked from her to me, finally understanding how much he had underestimated her. "Ellen, I get it now," he whispered. Vanessa's face went red. "You'll regret this," she hissed, storming out. After she left, Daniel turned to me. "I'm sorry, Ellen. I should have listened sooner." I put a hand on his shoulder. "You're listening now. That's what matters." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just protecting the house. I was protecting my peace, my family, and myself. The weeks that followed were quieter. Vanessa didn't try to come back, but I knew she was out there, somewhere, plotting. That knowledge would have scared me before. But now, I felt ready. I had learned something important. Life isn't about avoiding betrayal. It's about standing strong when it happens. and growing stronger after. Camera pans out to Ellen walking to the porch, looking at the stars, taking a deep breath. Soft piano plays. "Mom, Dad," I whispered. "Thank you for teaching me how to fight. I'm ready for whatever comes next." I had thought the storm with Vanessa was over. She'd left after our last confrontation, and Daniel seemed awake, finally seeing her for what she truly was. But life has a way of teaching you that storms don't end quietly. They come back. It started with an anonymous phone call. "Ellen Lewis?" a voice asked. "Yes," I said cautiously. "I think you should know, not everything about your family is as perfect as you think," the voice said, then hung up. My heart sank. I knew Vanessa had someone feeding her information. She wasn't clever enough on her own to dig this deep. Someone was helping her. That evening, I met Daniel at a quiet cafe. He was tense, a stack of papers in his hand. "What's this?" I asked. I found out something from Vanessa," he said quietly. "She knows about a trust my parents set up for me years ago. She says she has evidence that I tried to access it alone." I froze. "Evidence? But that's impossible. You never did that." "I know," he said, "but she's threatening to take legal action. She says it will redefine everything." I felt a mix of anger and dread. Vanessa wasn't just trying to intimidate me anymore. She was trying to rewrite the story of our family. That night, I went through the old documents in my attic again, scanning for anything that Vanessa could twist. That's when I found it. A series of letters between Daniel and his college roommate, emails about loans, and even a note from a bank clerk confirming he'd made inquiries about the trust fund in secret. It was innocent, just research, nothing more. But Vanessa would twist it. She would say he had tried to steal the money, and worse, she could make him doubt himself. The next day, she showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. I had expected it. But the sight of her standing there, calm and smiling, made my blood run cold. "Ellen," she said, voice sweet, "we need to talk. Your brother doesn't realize the truth about his past." I didn't invite her in. "I already know the truth," I said firmly. "You're just trying to create doubt." She tilted her head. "Doubt? No, I'm giving him clarity." I narrowed my eyes. "You're trying to manipulate him. I won't let you." Vanessa's smile faltered for a second, a crack in her armor. "You'll see. Everyone has secrets, and some secrets are dangerous." I called Daniel immediately after she left. He sounded shaken. "She's convincing me," he admitted. "She says my past mistakes could affect the trust. That I could lose everything." I took a deep breath. "Daniel, listen to me." "Don't believe her? She's twisting the facts. You know what your parents wanted. You know the truth? I know, but..." His voice trailed off. "But nothing," I said firmly. "You have to stand strong. She's trying to scare you. That's all." Over the next few days, I decided to take action. I reached out to Mr. Raymond again and brought in a private investigator, someone my parents had used years ago to protect the estate from potential fraud. The investigator, a calm, meticulous man named Mr. Hensley, began digging into Vanessa's activities. Phone records, financial statements, emails. Within a week, he had a report. Vanessa had been contacting multiple lawyers, accountants, and even a former colleague of Daniel's, trying to build a case that he had accessed the trust illegally. But everything she found was circumstantial, nothing solid. Armed with this information, I called Daniel over. I spread the report in front of him, along with copies of the will, Dad's handwritten letter, and Mom's trust documents. "Look," I said, "everything she's trying to use against you. It won't hold up. Not legally, not morally. You're protected. And so am I." He looked at me, relief flooding his face. "Ellen, I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd do the same for me," I replied. "You'd stand up for me. Now it's my turn to stand up for you." But Vanessa didn't back down. That same week, she escalated. She sent Daniel a certified letter, a lawyer's letter claiming that his actions had violated the terms of the trust, and that she intended to press charges unless he signed over any potential claims. Daniel called me in a panic. "Ellen, what do?" I sat down, taking his hands in mine. We fight this together. You don't sign anything, I'll handle it. And I did. I contacted our lawyer, had him respond formally, and included the evidence showing Vanessa's manipulation attempts. I also instructed Mr. Hensley to continue monitoring her. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. Vanessa showed up at Daniel's house, storming past him as if I weren't even in the room. You think you can control everything? She spat. I'll ruin you. I'll ruin your family. Daniel tried to calm her, but she ignored him. Then she turned her fury on me. You've made him weak, she yelled. You've turned him against me. I didn't flinch. I stepped closer. I didn't turn him against anyone. I reminded him who his family is. You're the one who tried to break it. Her hands trembled. For a moment, she looked human, scared, desperate. But she quickly masked it with anger. You can't stop me, she hissed, storming out. After she left, Daniel turned to me. Ellen, I see now. I let her manipulate me. I forgot what matters. Family. I forgot you. I smiled softly, feeling a weight lift from my chest. You remembered now. That's what counts. And I realized in that moment that protecting the house wasn't just about property. It was about protecting trust, love, and truth in our family. The following weeks were quieter. Vanessa kept her distance, and Daniel finally began to see the power of standing firm with family rather than being swayed by someone who didn't care about him. And I discovered something new about myself. I was stronger than I'd thought. I could face betrayal, manipulation, even fear, and come out of it still standing, still in control. Camera pans to Ellen standing on her porch at sunset, looking at the oak tree planted by her father. She closes her eyes, breathes deeply. Mom, Dad, she whispers, we're okay. We've survived the storm, and we're stronger because of it. For weeks, life had finally felt normal, quiet, calm. Daniel and I had reconnected in ways I hadn't realized we'd been missing. Weekend breakfasts, long walks in the neighborhood, even late-night phone calls about nothing important. It was small things like these that reminded me what family really meant. But Vanessa's absence didn't mean she was gone. I knew better. One rainy afternoon, I was at the local library, going through public records for a personal project when something caught my eye. It was an old newspaper clipping from over 20 years ago, buried in the archives. The headline read, Local Family in Dispute Over Trust Fund, Questions Arise About Hidden Beneficiary. I frowned. Could it be related to my parents? I had never heard of any dispute. I photocopied the article and took it home. Sitting in my living room, I read the lines carefully. It mentioned a distant relative, someone my parents had legally removed from the trust to protect Daniel and me. But the article also hinted that part of the trust had been hidden, undisclosed publicly. My stomach twisted. That night, I called Daniel. You need to see this, I said, handing him the clipping. He leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning the words. I don't remember any of this. Mom and Dad never mentioned a hidden beneficiary. I think they did it to protect us, I said, but someone else might have found out. Someone like Vanessa. She's desperate, and desperate people get dangerous. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we have to be ready. And we have to be smart. Over the next few days, we started digging through old family documents again. Letters, bank statements, trust papers. That's when we stumbled upon something remarkable. A sealed envelope tucked in the bottom drawer of Mom's old writing desk. It wasn't labeled with a date. Not signed, but inside was a handwritten note from Mom. To Ellen and Daniel. If ever you feel uncertain about your inheritance, or if someone tries to take advantage of your trust, know that the entire estate was structured with both of you in mind. Nothing can be claimed without mutual consent. Protect each other, always. Daniel looked at me, eyes wide. They thought about this, years before Vanessa even appeared. Yes, I said softly. They knew people like her would come along. That's why they made us equal partners in everything. It was more than just money or property. It was a lesson about family, loyalty, and standing together. But Vanessa had already started her next move. A few days later, a neighbor called me. "Ellen, I saw someone snooping around your parents' house yesterday. Blonde hair, tall, pretty sharp suit." I knew immediately. Vanessa. She wasn't done. She was escalating. That night, I sat down with Daniel. "She's trying to provoke us," I said. "Make us react emotionally. Make us look unprofessional, unprepared." Daniel nodded. "We won't give her that satisfaction." I smiled faintly. "We'll beat her with facts, calm and truth. Nothing else." We spent hours reviewing all the documents, the letters, the will, the trust fund, and even Dad's personal notes. By the time we finished, we had an airtight plan. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Vanessa showed up at our parents' house, determined to intimidate. She tried her usual tactic, charm mixed with anger. "You think you're clever, Ellen," she said. "But secrets always come out." I didn't flinch. "I know the secrets," I said calmly. "The ones Mom and Dad wanted me to know. The ones you're trying to use against us. You have nothing." Daniel stepped forward, holding the sealed envelope from Mom. "We've got everything documented. Everything. You have no leverage." Vanessa's face went pale. For a brief moment, I saw fear flash in her eyes, but she quickly covered it with anger. "You can't keep me out forever," she hissed, before turning sharply and leaving. After she left, Daniel and I sat down on the porch, watching the sun set behind the oak tree Dad had planted. "You know," Daniel said, "I think I finally understand what Mom and Dad were trying to teach us. It wasn't about property or money. It was about trust. About protecting each other," I nodded. "Exactly. And if we stick together, there's nothing Vanessa or anyone else can do to break us." He looked at me, a faint smile on his lips. "I forgot how strong you are, Ellen. You've always been the backbone of this family." I felt warmth in my chest. "And you're finally seeing it too." Over the next weeks, Vanessa didn't reappear. Daniel began repairing his own boundaries, refusing to let her manipulation affect him. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because the threat was gone, it wasn't, but because we had prepared. We had evidence, and most importantly, we had each other. That night, I walked out to the porch one last time, looking at the oak tree as the stars shone above. "Mom, Dad," I whispered, "we're ready. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And we'll win, like you knew we would." Just when I thought Vanessa had left us alone, I realized the storm wasn't over. It had only changed shape. This time, it wasn't behind closed doors or in whispered threats. It was public. It started with the community newsletter. I was making coffee when Daniel came rushing in, holding a crumpled copy in his hands. His face was pale. "Ellen, you need to see this," he said, voice tight. I took the newsletter, scanning the pages. Right there, in bold letters, was an article. "Local Lewis family drama. Siblings disagree on inheritance." The piece twisted facts, making it sound like Daniel and I were fighting over money, that I was trying to cut him out of the house, that our parents' wishes were being ignored. And the kicker? It included quotes from an anonymous source, clearly Vanessa, spreading half-truths and insinuations. I felt my stomach knot. Daniel sat down heavily. "She's gone public," he said quietly. I took a deep breath. "Then we respond carefully, calmly, with facts. Not emotions," he nodded, though I could see the frustration on his face. I didn't want our family dragged through the mud." "I know," I said softly, "but we have to fight this. Not just for the house, but for our family's reputation. And for us." Over the next few days, we started a plan. Step 1. Gather everything in writing. The will, Dad's letters, Mom's trust notes, even old family photos showing Daniel and me together. Step 2. Consult Mr. Raymond about issuing a public statement. Step 3. Document Vanessa's manipulations so that if she tried legal or social attacks, we were protected. We worked late nights, sifting through old letters and documents, rewriting emails, and preparing statements. It felt exhausting, like we were reliving every argument, every betrayal. But it was necessary. Then came the confrontation I had been expecting. Vanessa showed up at our door, dressed sharply, but there was an edge to her that wasn't there before. She had clearly been stewing, desperate now. "I see you're preparing for battle," she said, voice icy. I didn't move. "We're preparing for truth. Facts, not gossip." She laughed, low and bitter. "Facts? You think facts can stop me?" "People love drama, Ellen. They eat it up, and I'm giving them a show." I stepped closer, calm but firm. "Then you've already lost. The truth doesn't need a show. It just needs to be seen, and we'll make sure everyone sees it." Daniel stood beside me, holding Dad's handwritten letter in his hands. "You can try, Vanessa, but everything you're doing is documented, and you have no case." Her eyes flickered, just for a moment with doubt, but she quickly masked it with anger. "You'll regret this," she hissed before storming off. The following week was tense. Our neighbors were curious, whispering about what had happened. Daniel and I stayed calm, not reacting to gossip, letting the documents and our calm demeanor speak for us. I realized something important. The real power wasn't in shouting louder than Vanessa or defending ourselves angrily. The real power was in staying steady, letting the truth come forward naturally. One afternoon, I received an email from the editor of the community newsletter. "Ms. Lewis, we've reviewed your documents and statements. We would like to publish your side of the story to ensure accuracy. Please advise if you'd like to include personal comments." I smiled, feeling a surge of relief. "Finally," I whispered. "The truth gets its turn." Daniel and I worked together on the statement. We wrote it simply, clearly, and from the heart. Our parents' wishes were always for us to stay united. Any claims otherwise are false. We stand together as siblings and family, honoring their legacy. The publication came out the next week. The community read it. People started calling and texting, supportive messages flooding in. They knew Vanessa had been stirring the pot, but they also saw the truth. Daniel and I were united, grounded, and acting with integrity. Vanessa's plan had failed, publicly. She had tried to manipulate facts, spread fear, and twist perception. But the truth, documented and calmly presented, had won. That night, Daniel and I sat on the porch, the neighborhood quiet around us. "You know," he said, "I finally get it. Mom and Dad always knew we'd face challenges, but they also knew we'd be okay as long as we stayed together." I nodded. "Exactly, and all of this. It taught us what family really means." Daniel smiled faintly. "You've always been the strong one, Ellen. I just needed to see it clearly." I reached out, squeezing his hand. "And you've got the backbone too, Daniel. We make a team." Weeks passed, and the storm from Vanessa died down. She stopped showing up, the gossip faded, and our family bond grew stronger. I realized, for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. Not because Vanessa was gone, but because I had faced her, defended my family, and come out stronger on the other side. Standing on the porch, looking at the oak tree Dad planted years ago, I whispered, "Mom? Dad? We're ready. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And we'll always win, because we have each other." I had thought the worst was behind us. Vanessa had failed to manipulate the community, Daniel and I were finally united, and our parents' legacy remained intact. But Vanessa doesn't quit easily. It started subtly. Daniel came home one evening looking unusually pale. "Ellen?" "I got a call today," he said quietly. I looked up, concerned. "Who was it?" "Someone from my old school. A teacher, apparently. They wanted to verify some details about me." "From when I was a kid," I frowned. "Why? And how did they get your contact info?" He shook his head. "Vanessa, I think. She's trying to dig into my past. Make me feel small, like I'm not worthy. Like I've been lying all along." I felt a familiar surge of protective anger. "She's crossing a line. We stop this now." That night I went through Daniel's childhood albums and school records. Old report cards, letters from teachers, even childhood awards. Everything that could be misconstrued was documented, organized, and prepared. I wanted to make sure Vanessa had no ammunition to use against him. A few days later, Vanessa showed up at the edge of our neighborhood, obviously trying to look casual. I saw her through the kitchen window and my stomach tightened. "She's testing us," I said to Daniel. He nodded. "I can feel it." "She's desperate now." I made a decision. "Then it's time we confront it head on. No running, no hiding, just truth." We called in Mr. Hensley, the private investigator, to look into any attempts Vanessa might make to contact Daniel's old classmates or teachers. Within days, he confirmed what I had feared. Vanessa had been reaching out to anyone who might have vague recollections of Daniel's childhood, hoping to spin them into some scandal or weakness. "She's grasping at straws," Mr. Hensley said. "But she's dangerous when she's desperate," I nodded. "Then we stay prepared. We stay united." The next confrontation came unexpectedly. Daniel received an email claiming it was from one of his former teachers, asking to meet and discuss a serious issue from your school years. He was hesitant. Should I even respond? I shook my head. "No, not alone. If you go, I go. We handle this together." He smiled faintly, gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, Ellen. I don't know how I would have dealt with this without you." "You'd do the same for me," I said softly. "We protect each other, always." We decided to visit the teacher together. The woman was surprised to see us as a pair, Daniel, nervous but firm, and me, calm and steady. "I've received unusual requests," the teacher admitted. "Someone wanted information about Daniel. Someone said it was for a family matter." "That's correct," I said. "We're here to clarify the facts. Daniel's childhood is private, and no one has permission to twist his past for personal gain." The teacher nodded. "I see. Everything I know shows Daniel as a bright, respectful student. No issues, no misconduct, nothing that could be used against him." I exhaled, relief washing over me. "Thank you. That's exactly what we needed to know." Returning home, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Vanessa's attempts to unsettle Daniel had failed, at least for now. But that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the thought that Vanessa's desperation might lead her to even more extreme measures. The very next morning, a letter arrived, handwritten, slipped under our door. "You think you've won, but the past holds more than you know. Secrets your parents kept will come to light." I felt a chill run down my spine. Vanessa's tone had shifted, no longer threatening casually but menacingly. She was promising revelations and she wasn't bluffing. I called Daniel immediately. "She's escalating. This is bigger than she's done before." He frowned. "What do? We face it. We prepare, and we uncover the truth before she can distort it." Over the next week, we delved deeper into our parents' old files, old letters, tax documents, even private journals. We wanted to understand if there really was a secret Vanessa could exploit. What we found surprised us. Tucked away in Mom's journal was a note I had never seen. "If anything ever happens, Ellen and Daniel must trust each other fully. Only together can they protect what we've built. The past may have shadows, but the truth will guide them." Daniel looked at me, stunned. They knew someone might try to attack us. They trusted us to be ready. "Yes," I said softly. "They trusted us to protect each other. That's the secret Vanessa can't touch. Our bond. Our unity." That evening we sat on the porch, looking at the oak tree Dad planted years ago. "Whatever she tries next," I said, "we face it together." "Nothing from the past can hurt us if we're united," Daniel nodded, squeezing my hand. "I see it now. I understand everything. The house, the trust, the family. I won't let her manipulate me again." I smiled, feeling a surge of hope. "Good, because the past doesn't define us. Our choices now do." It had been weeks since Vanessa's last move. For the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, we had bought ourselves some peace. But then I spotted her. She was at the edge of the park, talking to people with exaggerated gestures, her voice carrying just enough for us to hear. It wasn't subtle. She was trying to turn the community against us, paint Daniel and me as greedy, as manipulative. I stopped in my tracks. "Daniel," I said quietly. "She's at it again. She's trying to make this public." He nodded, lips tight. "We can't let her control the narrative." We walked closer, deliberately calm, letting her see us approaching. Vanessa paused mid-sentence, spotting us. "Ellen! Daniel!" she called, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "So glad I found you. There's something we need to discuss. Everyone should hear this." I felt the crowd start to glance our way. Some neighbors whispered. Curiosity piqued. Vanessa was trying to set a stage, and she thought she had the upper hand. I took a deep breath, standing tall. "Vanessa," I said, voice steady. "If you have something to say it clearly. Otherwise, let's not waste everyone's time." Her smile faltered. "Oh, don't act like you're so innocent. You think you can keep everything your way? Your brother in the house. The trust. It should have been mine to influence. And you've blocked me." I nodded calmly. "Yes, we blocked manipulation. And you're trying to make this about power, not truth. But let me be clear. The house, the trust, the family, none of that is yours to control." Daniel stepped forward, holding the envelope with Mom's letters. "Everything she's saying is false. My sister and I are united, our parents' wishes are clear, and nothing she says can change that." Some people in the crowd murmured, curious, unsure who to believe. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. She was losing control. "You think this proves anything?" she hissed. "People don't know the whole story." I smiled, calm and deliberate. "Exactly. And the only people who truly know the story are Daniel, me, and the documents our parents left. You can twist facts, spread gossip, or try to intimidate. But the truth always comes out." By now, a small group of neighbors had gathered, sensing the tension. I could feel their eyes on us, and I realized something. Our calm, clear presentation of facts was more persuasive than her theatrics. People responded to authenticity, not drama. One neighbor, Mrs. Harding, stepped forward. "Ellen, Daniel, we've known your family for years. We know the kind of people you are. This woman has no right to manipulate us with lies." Vanessa's face turned red, and she finally snapped. "You'll all see. I'll make sure the world knows the truth." I shook my head slowly. "No. You'll see that lies can't stand against the truth, patience, and integrity. That's something you'll never understand." The crowd began to disperse, some shaking their heads at Vanessa's outburst, others coming to us quietly to show support. Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him. "You handled that beautifully," he said, eyes bright. "You didn't raise your voice, you didn't lose control, and people saw the difference." I shrugged lightly. "It's not about winning a moment. It's about protecting our family and the truth. Drama doesn't help anything." Vanessa finally turned and stormed away, her energy spent and her audience gone. She had tried to dominate the scene, to make herself the victim, and she had failed spectacularly. Daniel put a hand on my shoulder. "I've learned something today," he said quietly. "Strength isn't just standing up for yourself. It's standing up calmly, confidently, and letting the truth speak for itself." I nodded, feeling a wave of satisfaction. "Exactly. And that's how you beat people like Vanessa, with facts, integrity, and unity." That evening, we sat on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the trees. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful again. "I think she's done." "For now," Daniel said. I smiled faintly. "She'll always try. But she can't touch what we've built. And she can't shake us." Daniel leaned back, sighing. "I've never been prouder of our family. And of you, Ellen. You've taught me so much." I reached out, squeezing his hand. "We protect each other. That's all that matters." And in that moment, as the stars appeared above and the world felt quiet again, I realized something crucial. Victory wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about standing firm, united, and refusing to let manipulation define our lives. I thought we had seen the worst of Vanessa, Public confrontations, gossip, manipulations, all of it seemed behind us. But I was wrong. It started with a message to Daniel. If you want the truth about your parents, call me. No sender name. No number, just that chilling sentence. Daniel frowned. Ellen, I have a bad feeling about this. I nodded. Me too, this isn't random. Vanessa is trying to hit you where it hurts, emotionally. She's found something, and she wants to shake your foundation. We traced the number and discovered it was from a private investigator Vanessa had hired. Someone who had combed through every old record, every document, every scrap of family history. She's desperate, I told Daniel, and desperate people get reckless. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. What could she possibly find? Mom and Dad never kept secrets that matter. Right? I gave him a reassuring smile. Right, but it's about how she presents it. She wants to create doubt, make you question everything you've believed in. The next day, Daniel received a package. Inside was a faded photograph, a letter, and a newspaper clipping from decades ago. Vanessa had painstakingly assembled it to suggest a family scandal from the past. Daniel's face went pale. Ellen, this can't be true. I took the items carefully, examining them. The photo was of our father with a distant relative we barely knew. The letter was a benign correspondence about an inheritance dispute that had been resolved decades ago. The newspaper clipping was sensationalized, but factually accurate, only twisted in presentation. I handed them back to Daniel gently. Look at this carefully. Facts aren't lies, but what she's trying to do is spin a story. She's using old things out of context to create fear. We spent the next hours reviewing every single document, every old letter, every file from our parents' archives. The truth was clear. Nothing Vanessa had could harm us, but I understood why she hoped it would. She wanted to create emotional chaos, make Daniel doubt himself and our family. That was her weapon. That evening she appeared at our door. No grand gestures, no public drama, just cold, calculated menace. I see you found the past, she said, voice low. But some secrets your parents never told you? Might shock you. I didn't flinch. You're right. There are secrets. But the ones that matter are the lessons they left us, the unity they wanted. And that's untouchable, she sneered. You think you're untouchable? Everyone has a weakness. Everyone has something buried. Daniel stepped forward, holding Mom's journal. The only things buried are the lessons you never learned. Family is about trust, unity, and protecting each other. Vanessa's face twisted in frustration. You're unbreakable. I nodded calmly. We are, and your attempts to divide us won't succeed. She finally turned and left, her energy exhausted and her plan failing once again. After she left, Daniel slumped into the couch, the tension finally fading. Ellen, I thought for a moment I'd believe her, he admitted, voice quiet. I almost let the past scare me. I sat beside him. That's why I'm here, to remind you that fear can't dictate our lives. Only truth and unity can. He looked at me with gratitude. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd do the same for me, I said, squeezing his hand. And that's the difference between us and her. We protect each other. She manipulates alone. Over the following weeks, we fortified our family archives, organized documents, and even made copies for extra security. We knew Vanessa might attempt another desperate move, but this time we were prepared emotionally and practically. I realized something essential. The real power wasn't in money, property, or the past. It was in resilience, clarity, and unwavering support for one another. Daniel smiled faintly one evening. A weight lifted from his shoulders. I finally see it. The past can't hurt us. We define our present and our future. I nodded, feeling a warmth that only comes from deep understanding and restored trust. Exactly. And as long as we stay united, there's nothing Vanessa or anyone else can do to break us. Vanessa's desperation had reached a peak. After months of public attempts, manipulations, and emotional attacks, she decided her next move would be the most audacious yet: a legal claim on the trust in the house. I had anticipated this. I had anticipated everything, and I knew one thing for sure: she underestimated us. The morning of the court hearing, Daniel and I arrived at the courthouse. He was nervous, his hands fidgeting with his tie, but I could see the determination in his eyes. "You ready?" I asked, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He nodded. "I've got you. I trust you. Let's do this." "That's all that matters," I replied. "We present the truth. That's our strongest weapon." The courtroom was tense. Vanessa entered, dressed sharply, exuding confidence and control. She smirked when she saw us, clearly thinking she had the upper hand. Her lawyer began, presenting claims that Daniel had mishandled the trust, that I had somehow manipulated him, and that the will was in dispute. But every claim was built on her attempts at manipulation, half-truths, and twisted documents, none of which could hold up under scrutiny. I took a deep breath when it was our turn. "Your Honor," I began, voice calm and clear, "everything presented by Ms. Vanessa is either false, misleading, or taken out of context. My brother and I are the rightful heirs according to our parents' trust. Every document, every letter, every instruction from our parents confirms this." I handed over the envelope of Dad's letters and Mom's journal entries. "We have preserved all original documents, ensuring transparency and accuracy. Nothing has been altered or concealed." The judge reviewed the documents, nodding slowly. Vanessa's lawyer tried to object, but it was clear that our preparation and meticulous documentation had left her with no room to maneuver. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady. "I am fully aware of the trust and my parents' wishes. I have never acted against them. This claim is baseless, and any attempt to manipulate or intimidate me is evident in the documentation we've provided." Vanessa's face tightened. Her confidence faltered. The courtroom fell silent as the judge deliberated. Finally, he spoke. "After reviewing all documents and testimonies, it is clear that the trust and inheritance are to remain as originally stipulated. Ms. Vanessa's claim is dismissed in its entirety." A wave of relief washed over us. I could see Daniel exhale, the tension finally leaving his shoulders. Vanessa's jaw tightened, but she had no words. The legal battle was over. Outside the courthouse, Daniel turned to me, eyes glistening. "Ellen, we did it. We actually did it," I smiled, squeezing his hand. "We did it together. That's what mattered." He nodded. "I finally understand. It wasn't just about winning. It was about standing firm, united, and trusting the truth." I felt a deep sense of closure, not just legally, but emotionally. Months of manipulation, fear, and tension had finally ended. That night, we returned home and sat on the porch, the stars glowing softly above. "I never realized how strong we could be," Daniel admitted. "Facing her, all of this, I see now what family really means," I smiled. "Strength isn't just about facing others. It's about facing fear, doubt, and standing by each other no matter what." He looked at me with gratitude. "And you've been my anchor through it all." I reached out and squeezed his hand. "And you've been mine. That's what family is. And nothing, not even Vanessa, can take that away." Scene opens on Ellen and Daniel's backyard. The sun is low, casting golden light across the lawn. The neighborhood is quiet, and a gentle breeze moves through the trees. It had been weeks since the courtroom victory. Vanessa had retreated completely, her attempts to manipulate, intimidate, and divide us finally exhausted. For the first time in months, I felt a deep, calm sense of peace. Daniel and I sat on the porch, sipping tea and watching the world around us. Birds chirped in the distance, children played down the street, and for the first time, it all felt normal. "You know," Daniel said, staring at the fading sunlight, "I never thought I'd see the day when all this ended. I was so anxious, worried. I felt like everything could fall apart." I smiled gently. "I know, it wasn't easy, but we made it. We faced every challenge together, and that's what mattered. Unity, not winning or losing." He nodded slowly, a thoughtful look in his eyes. I see now. Vanessa tried to scare me to make me doubt myself and even doubt you. And us. But none of it worked. Not because we're lucky, but because we stayed true to what our parents taught us. And to each other. I leaned back, letting the warmth of the evening sun wash over me. Exactly. And I realized something important too. Family isn't just blood or inheritance. It's trust, loyalty, and standing together even when the world tries to tear you apart. Daniel smiled faintly. I finally understand what that really means. And I appreciate it more than I can say. You've always been the backbone of this family, Ellen. I just didn't see it until now. I reached over, placing a hand over his. And you've been strong too, Daniel. Stronger than you realized. That's the beauty of family. We lift each other up. Over the next few days, life returned to a gentle rhythm. We organized family photos, went through old letters, and even planted flowers around the oak tree Dad had planted years ago, a symbol of our family's enduring strength. I found myself reflecting on everything we had endured. The lies, the threats, the public humiliation, the emotional manipulation, and I realized something profound. Those challenges had shaped us. They had made our bond stronger, clearer, and unbreakable. One evening, Daniel turned to me as we watched the sunset. Ellen, I feel like we've grown. Not just surviving Vanessa's games, but in ourselves. I've learned resilience, patience, and the power of standing together. I nodded, feeling a warm glow in my chest. Yes, and I've learned that emotional strength is just as important as legal or practical strength. Protecting your heart is as vital as protecting your home. Daniel smiled. I feel ready now. Ready for anything. Because I know you're here, and we have each other. I leaned back, letting the quiet wash over me. Exactly. And that's something no one can ever take away. Not money, not threats, not manipulation. Nothing can undo what we have built together. Camera pans out slowly, showing Ellen and Daniel silhouetted on the porch, the golden light fading into twilight, the oak tree standing strong in the background. Soft piano music plays. By facing every challenge, staying united and trusting in truth and integrity, we had achieved something far greater than legal victory. Emotional closure, personal growth, and the kind of family bond that could withstand anything. It was peace after the storm. Months had passed since Vanessa's final defeat. Life had returned to a gentle rhythm, filled with small, comforting routines. Sunday breakfasts, walks through the neighborhood, evenings spent reading on the porch. Yet what lingered most wasn't the calm, but the lessons we had learned through everything we endured. I often found myself reflecting on the journey. The public confrontations, the manipulations, the legal battles, the emotional games Vanessa had played. It had been exhausting, terrifying, and sometimes overwhelming. But now, sitting beside Daniel, I realized something crucial. All of it had shaped us, strengthened us, and reminded us what family truly means. Daniel looked up from his coffee, a small smile on his face. Ellen, I never realized how much I'd grow through all of this. Not just surviving Vanessa's schemes, but growing as a person. I nodded, feeling a deep warmth. I know, I feel it too. I've learned patience, resilience, and the power of standing together. Nothing else matters if you have that. He laughed softly. I guess our parents knew we'd need those lessons. They prepared us without even saying it outright. Yes, I said, smiling. Mom and Dad weren't just protecting us legally. They were teaching us to protect each other emotionally, to trust, to stand strong, to stay united. I thought about the oak tree Dad had planted years ago, a symbol of growth, endurance, and strength. That tree had weathered storms, seasons, and time, just like our family. Vanessa had tried to shake us, manipulate us, and divide us. But she had failed. Because the roots were deeper than her attempts, stronger than her threats, and Daniel and I, we had grown into our own strength, our own clarity, our own understanding of what it means to be family. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I took a deep breath, looking around the home that held so many memories. "Daniel," I said quietly, "no matter what comes next, no one can ever take this away from us. Our bond, our family, our integrity." He nodded, eyes glistening with gratitude. "I know. And I'm so glad I've got you by my side." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "Always. That's the truth Vanessa could never touch. That's the legacy Mom and Dad left us. Love, trust, and unity." As the last light faded and stars appeared in the sky, I felt a deep, profound peace. Not just from winning the battles, but from understanding what truly mattered. Family wasn't defined by money, possessions, or external approval. Family was trust, loyalty, and standing together, no matter what. And in that moment, I realized we were ready for anything life could throw at us, together, unshakable and whole. Camera pans out to Ellen and Daniel on the porch, the oak tree in the background, stars twinkling above. Soft, uplifting piano music rises. Final line, powerful emotional closure. And in the end, no one can take away what family has truly given us, each other.